We are finally at the Fiesta Bowl, Ole Miss versus Miami in about 2 hours' time, the biggest game in Ole Miss program history. Let's talk to Mike Huesmann all about it leading up to kickoff. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. And this podcast is the most watched podcast on the internet about Ole Miss sports. Thank you very much for that. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network in the world. That's all because of you. On today's show, we will preview the last couple of hours leading up to the Fiesta Bowl. We'll talk about what we think is going to happen, what we need to watch out for, talk about players to watch, and all of that stuff. In the third segment, it will be all about you. So have your comments ready, but please, in the comments, tell me where you're commenting from. We want to shout that out as well. We appreciate that very much. You know, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube, and a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is, and that is your team every day. All right, so we're joined by Mike Huesmann. And Mike, one thing that is interesting about this game to me is it is a strength versus strength matchup completely. Yep. And I don't know that the strength versus strength is going to be what determines this game. I think it's going to be the Miami offense versus the Ole Miss defense that will determine this game.
100% with you. I said that last night on the group show, which we moved to Wednesday. But if Miami can stay on schedule, they will probably win this game. They have the sixth best time of possession. They're 131st in pace of play, meaning they're letting the clock get down there. You have to get them off of that to win. And if Ole Miss does that, they will win, because Carson Beck's thrown 10 picks, but 6 of them have been in their 2 losses. When you force him to throw the ball over 20 yards, he will turn it over. In 400-plus passes this year, he's only thrown over 20 yards 50 times. 6 of his picks have come in those 50 passes.
Yeah, and when you look at this, I think they play that way offensively because of how good their ends are defensively, and they don't rotate a lot on the defensive line. That's one thing that's look. So if Ole Miss can get first downs, I think it's important that Ole Miss stays on schedule. If they can get this up to 70 or 80 plays in this game, by the fourth quarter, those guys, Mesidor and Bain, they could be sucking wind.
Yes, and I think for Ole Miss, typically it's, you're going to run, set up the pass. I think for Ole Miss, it's the inverse of that now. Spread everybody out, stay in shotgun, make those D linemen run around a lot, chase a lot. Then you run the ball when they're getting winded and, sucking air.
Yeah, it should be pretty interesting. This is a fun, evenly matched matchup. I don't foresee a situation where at the end of the game that you're just claiming that one team is better than the other. It's going to be one of those things that somebody is going to lose a football game, and that's going to suck for whoever loses this football game. But it's not going to be a situation to where one team is clearly over the other, because if you talk to Miami fans, they 100% believe they're going to win. If you talk to Ole Miss fans, they 100% believe they're going to win.
I think the only scenario we see a double-digit outcome on either side is if we have a 3+ turnover margin one way or the other.
Yeah, I think that's important, because in my keys to the game, the number one key, I do think that the key to this Miami game is really similar to Ole Miss's key with the Georgia Bulldogs, and that is stop the run. If Miami struggles to run the ball and you can get them in long yardage, that's going to cause Carson Beck to throw the ball downfield, and there's a good chance he's going to throw it to another jersey. There's so many factors about what if and what's going on and all of that, how it could happen, that it's interesting on both sides. You don't have a perfect, non-flawed team on either side, but you have 2 really good football teams this season.
And I think both coaching staffs and teams know exactly who they are and what they need to do to play their best brand of football. So it's going to be tough to pull them out of what they want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think in this game, My person that normally I'm going to say inside the Manning Center, I know they're in Arizona this week, but he said this walkthrough this morning for Ole Miss was very good, very clean. He expects a very clean game. And if Ole Miss plays a clean game, they're going to win it.
I would say the other way. I think if Miami plays a clean game, they will win. But it goes either way. I mean,
I'm of the opinion that if both teams plays their best football, that like you have best on best the whole game through, Ole Miss has the better football team to win this game. That's when I'm going into this game winning with.
Probably. Yeah, I don't hate that. Yeah. I think, and part of why I framed it the other way was because of how poor Miami can get when Beck is turning it over. Turnovers would hurt them more than they would hurt Ole Miss.
Yeah, that absolutely. If Miami has multiple interception this game, I think there's almost no way that they win it unless Ole Miss plays poorly.
Absolutely.
But if both teams have no turnovers and everybody's just kind of going, I think Ole Miss wins a very close one because they're good. And the Ole Miss offensive line doesn't get much credit for what they do. Now, there's a lot of RPOs that can look weird because they were run blocking, and it's hard to pass block whenever you're run blocking. But you look at Diego Pounds, he has not given up a sack this season through 14 games. You look at Jaden Williams, the other tackle, has given up, I think, 2 sacks all season. This offensive line has done pretty good, and especially the second part of the season, they've been real good, which, I mean, they're going to have their best game against these guys because they're game wreckers. But Ole Miss, we don't need to act like Ole Miss doesn't have the talent to do this. They put 30 points on Oklahoma and Norman. They put 30 points on Georgia twice. They understand the assignment.
Absolutely. And in the pass game, Pounds, Kudas, and Jaden Williams all have very good PFF grades, above 14, which is outstanding.
Yeah, and Bryson Sanders has come on at the end of the year, and then you have Delano Townsend, which was kind of part of unlocking this offensive line to start with, honestly.
Yeah, and I remember we talked about that preseason. Like you said, Townsend's that guy who he's going to be battling early on, but will eventually get the job, what I think you thought would happen there, and it's exactly what did happen.
Yeah, and the run that Kewan Lacey went on, starting with about the Oklahoma game. The Oklahoma game on, a lot of that had to do with the offensive line gelling at that point and handling what was going on. They're going up to Oklahoma. You knew you were going to deal with some dudes on the defensive line for the Oklahoma Sooners. You had to be ready to go. Almost gave up 1 sack on that day, and Kewan Lacey, he broke a 30-yard touchdown run, and he had about 90 really hard yards in that game. And I don't know that can be understated going into this Miami game.
And one thing I give Ole Miss's Ole Miss's O-line a lot of credit for is they've been very adaptable at playing different defensive fronts, whether it's a 3 front, a 4 front, 4 gap, nose and an edge. Like there's multiple iterations. They've adapted well to all of them, which is impressive.
And I've seen offensive linemen, and Ole Miss has had offensive lines that for whatever reason, whenever they saw people in a bear front, they would kind of pee down their leg a little bit because that was kind of their kryptonite. Everybody plays bear now and stuff like that. You're right. They are unbelievably adaptable, and that's a credit to John Garrison and all the guys that have been associated with the offensive line room this year. Anyway, when we come back, we will talk about some of the players to watch and some last-minute stuff going into the Fiesta Bowl against the Miami Hurricanes. I'm joined by Mike Huesmann. We're going to have a good time, so stick around. Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming. Between subscriptions you forgot about and bills that keep going up and trying to figure out where all your money is actually going each month, it's easy to lose control. And that's why who has time to track every single transaction or hunt down hidden fees? That's where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. I was shocked when Rocket Money showed me I was paying for Netflix twice. I completely forgot about that. It has already saved me money. I like how it tracks subscriptions and lets me cancel them right there in the app with just a few taps. No more hunting down customer service numbers. You can get all the budgets and goals, get personalized insights, and receive real-time alerts for large transactions, upcoming bills, and low balances. It even consolidates your checking, savings, loans, and investments into a single dashboard so you get a clear view of your entire financial picture. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcast you're listening to and give it a 5-star review. It costs nothing, but it helps keep all of this free. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every single day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Ole Miss with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 per year. Go to lockedonolemist.supercast.com or check the link down in the show notes to learn more. Mike, one thing that I'm interested about, like Malachi Toney is an unbelievable player, as I saw at receiver for Miami. He is going to be on Heisman list as a sophomore coming up. I mean, really good. So whenever I say what I'm about to say, it's not anything derogatory towards Malachi Toney. Is Malachi Toney kind of a B- version of what Ole Miss saw with Zachariah Branch?
No, I think he is in that realm. He's not as quick at cutting. That burst upfield isn't as good as Branch. I think he's better at seeing the field and knowing when to cut, though. I think his instincts are better. The vision is there. I don't think the straight end speed is there.
What about the ball security for him? Any concern that he's put the ball on the ground the last couple of games?
It is a concern, I think, if you're them, because he went so long without a drop pass, and now you've done it multiple times lately. It could be realistic to say for a true freshman, the stage is big for him. Maybe he's trying to do too much. I don't know, but it is something to be mindful of, obviously, especially in how much we talked about the importance of turnovers in this game.
Yeah, because you already have a risk with throwing the ball downfield with Carson Beck and all that. You want to get them in that position. You can't help them out by adding fumbles into the mix as well.
Absolutely not. No.
And Miami in their games that they had trouble with against Louisville was against Louisville running some quick game and stuff like that. Yeah. Miller Moss got him going. But most importantly, it was Carson Beck turnovers and penalties. This is the most penalized team in the college football playoff currently playing. Now, against Ohio State and against Texas A&M, that didn't rear themselves. They didn't get called for penalties. And that is likely the reason they were able to win those games.
Yeah, I talked about that last night. They're 118 in the country at penalties. Ole Miss is 79, so both these teams have seen a decent amount of flags.
I think what Ole Miss wants to do, I don't know if they're going to be able to, but if they get into some second and shorts or third and shorts to where they can hunt a little bit, to where the ends have to at least be mindful of the run, I think there's a chance you see some double moves to try and get some handsy defensive backs to give you some cheap penalties from time to time. I do think Ole Miss is going to try and take advantage of that and bring that back out to the surface, because I think it's still there. It just hasn't been called.
Absolutely. And I think for Ole Miss, the guy who I'm looking at, if we're, I know FanDuel sometimes does these sponsors, Stribling is the guy that I like the over on. He's a guy who I think if they're going to get big plays based on who will be in coverage, I think Stribling is the guy that does it.
Yeah, and the money coming in on the public today, I think Ole Miss is getting about 60% of the bets on FanDuel, and they're getting about 63% of the money right now on FanDuel, or something like that.
Another interesting one, in the last 3 days, the over is spiking on the game. It was 51.5 48 hours ago. Yesterday was 52.5. Today it's up to 53.5.
Yeah, and my predicted score in this game is Ole Miss winning 31-24. That's what I decided to go with.
Okay.
And so that would be 55 points. So that's right about kind of where they're trending right now.
Yeah, and I think that number's about right on, because I was, for multiple days, hammer the under. Now the over, but now it's getting to a point where tough to go either side of that, because that's where it's going to be at, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're dealing with an Ole Miss team that has scored over 30 points in 8 or 9 consecutive games, and that includes 2 games against Georgia and a game against Oklahoma, 2 teams that have pretty elite defenses. And Florida's not bad either. I think Ole Miss went over Florida over 30 in that game as well.
Yeah. 8 games in a row. The last time they didn't, Washington State.
Yes, and that, honestly, if we're going to be real about that, they had a weird schedule thing to where they had a bye week, then Washington State, then Georgia. It's one of those things that was just desperate for a letdown. So honestly, if we're going to be real about it, that was the biggest chance for an upset all year.
Yeah, especially right before that bye was LSU, which was a massive game at the time.
Yes, and it's crazy to think that Ole Miss is a missed tackle on a 4th and 2 away from being 14-0 right now.
Yes.
And likely the number 2 team in the country or something like that.
Yeah. Easily would be 2. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's crazy to think about, but everybody just remembers how that Georgia game played out, and they're pretty consistently wanting to take the data point just straightforward. And it's like that game was the anomaly. That game wasn't the real. And the differences between the two, you saw it on the field against the Georgia Bulldogs, and that's with all of the stuff going on with the coaching staff and all that right now.
And the interesting hypothetical scenario in that, you don't have the missed tackle, you go undefeated. Well, then you play in the SEC championship game and you get a bye. The bye teams have not fared well. So it's a very alternate world of what would have happened in that case.
Yeah, unless you're Indiana, which I do want to thank Indiana for what they did.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of did the Lord's work with the way they handled that.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Honestly, in that Indiana-Alabama game, it was like they did a jersey uniform swap. Yeah. That was a Nick Saban Alabama team performance against somebody else.
When we were talking last night, Boss Man said this Indiana team reminds me exactly of Saban's first title team in 2009, when they just kind of came out of nowhere and you just took care of business all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. You get beat by 20 points, but it felt like you got beat by 50 points.
Yeah.
They call it joyless murder ball. They are showing Ole Miss coming up to the stadium. They have arrived in Glendale, Arizona for the Fiesta Bowl. The field looks absolutely gorgeous, by the way.
It does. Yeah.
We noticed that during the Tulane game, the navy blue and green, it just kind of goes good together. It looks good on a field. So
yeah,
right.
The one thing I haven't seen, what unis are Ole Miss wearing tonight?
Powder blue helmets, powder blue jerseys, white pants.
I like it.
Yeah, and Miami is going with their stormtrooper look. They're all white.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
I was hoping orange pants, but still good. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted orange pants too. I talked to Alex Dono from Locked On Canes. It's like, I just want Miami to look like Miami. That's all I want.
Yep.
So we'll see. Hopefully this is the last time we won't be able to see the orange pants again until next year. But we'll see exactly how that goes. Anyway, when we come back, we will get into your comments right here. This is the pregame show of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Thank you for watching. All right, Mike, let's get into the comment section real quick and have fun. This day, I'm telling you, just talking, and I'm just talking here, okay? Today has crept by. It's been the slowest dang day. It's like every 5 minutes takes an hour to get past. Yeah. I don't know if it's the fact that Ole Miss is playing a big game and there's no other games to lead into it and you have to wait for it, or if the magnitude of this Ole Miss game is just kind of taking over. All of that coming together, I guess, is just made it to where you need it to get here. You want it to get here, but you can't take a nap or anything like that because anxiety is too high.
When I was coaching, every Saturday we had a game. It was like that. When coaching high school, when you have a Friday game, you're teaching, then right away you go to set up, it goes quick. But those Saturday games, it's just on your mind the whole day. There's nothing you can do to speed it up, and you're just waiting, and that's it. Yeah.
All right, so let's go into the comment section. Remember, if you're commenting, we're going to try and get through as many as we can, about 10 minutes worth of time. So if we don't, check us out in the post-game show. Comment on there. Be sure to put where you're commenting from there as well. So, all right. We have David H. saying, hotty toddy from D.C. We've got Mark Wall saying, Mark from St. Louis, can't wait. Ole Miss by 100. LFG. We have Stretchy Bog saying, nerves just kicked in, yo, from Jackson, Mississippi. Or I know that one. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Will Wilbanks says, hotty toddy, let's go Rebels. He's from Sherman, Mississippi.
Where is Sherman, Mississippi on the map?
I do not know where Sherman, Mississippi is.
Okay.
Honestly, I can't answer. Most towns that pop up, I could do that. I do not know where Sherman, Mississippi is.
I'm checking this out.
Gary Gazard from Hotty Toddy from Boonville, Mississippi. They're not giving us a chance. Just spot the ball. Let's go. Yeah, you're starting to see people give Ole Miss a chance. And Jordan Rogers, who's picked every playoff game right this playoff run, picked Ole Miss today. And by the way, on SEC Network is the Ole Miss hometown radio call, I think, over the video. So it'll be the normal video with David Kellum's voice. So if you're into that, it's going to be on the SEC Network tonight.
Sherman is in Lee County, outside of Tupelo.
Okay, right outside of Tupelo. Yeah. So like by Amory?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. HYD or James York says HYDR from Vicksburg. Let's go Rebs. Make Mississippi and the SEC proud, or just make us proud, honestly. The Revolution says, I think as long as we go into halftime tied or better, then we will dominate the second half. Yeah, if Ole Miss is successful offensively at all, this could be Ole Miss's worst offensive game of the year. But if they are successful in running plays and just kind of methodically moving it on, the defense from Miami is going to get periodically worse and worse. So you just need to play solid defensively. If you can do that, you're going to be in good shape in the second half, I think.
And if Ole Miss is winning going into the fourth quarter, I would be shocked if they lose that. Yes,
me too. James Mack says, hotty toddy from Hickory Corners, Michigan. All right, James, are you a Trinidad person? That is pretty cool. And also go Tigers, if we're going to be honest about it. Johnny Christian says from Ripley, Mississippi, go Rebs. We're getting a lot of go Rebs, honestly.
Yeah.
Austin Bradley says, hotty toddy from Fairburn, Ohio. I love my school. Let's see. LSU Rebel 96, hotty toddy, go Rebs. This has been nerve-wracking. Miami is a great team. Ole Miss has overcome so much internal drama and change recently. Their spirits should be ready for this challenge.
I had to read LSU Rebel. I had to read that one a few times. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's like, what's happening there?
Yeah.
It's interesting to me for what's going on because everybody talked about before the game and how cathartic that Sugar Bowl was for Ole Miss. And they were worried about that kind of being the final boss for Ole Miss and there being a letdown for Miami. Miami kind of did the same thing when they beat Ohio State, though.
It's exactly what I said last night. Yeah.
It's two teams that gave absolutely everything in the game. So I do not think, again, in this game, you have to worry about what you did against Georgia compared to what they did against Ohio State because it all kind of washes out.
Yeah, on the one hand, you have one team that beat a conference foe and avenged your only loss of the year. The other hand, the number one defending national champion in the biggest win you've had in 25 years.
Yes. Dr. Henley says, hotty toddy from Columbus, Georgia. Pontotoc, Mississippi. K. Tackett says, believes in the Rebels. Jay Ray, hotty toddy from Millington, Tennessee. Get a W tonight any way possible would mean the world to so many fans. Thanks for what you do, HYDR. Do you know why Millington, Tennessee is a name that pops out to me, Mike?
I have no idea why. No. Why is it? I'm not sure.
Mike, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah, it looked like
that
you
was
froze.
weird.
Okay.
Yeah, it froze up for a second. Do you know why Millington, Tennessee is important to me?
No idea.
They cut every one of the orders for enlisted people in the United States Navy. So whenever we were negotiating orders, you had calls to Millington, and you were talking with the commands about that. So anytime I see Millington, Tennessee, that makes me automatically think I'm about to move, obviously, and I'm ready to fight because you're fighting for your orders at that point.
Okay.
All right. Chasing the MP says, I had a friend fly through Arizona. He called me and said, ASMA was 75 or 70% of the entire airport.
Interesting.
Was Ole Miss fans. We're having trouble with the internet. Sorry about that. All right, the internet's being weird. We're going to shut this down. Enjoy the game. We'll be back right after the game as well. So, game show. Hotty toddy, everybody. We will see y'all after the game.
See you guys later.